Good morning, and thank you for joining the webinar. I think as the time will go by, we'll have more attendees, so we'll just start. Thank you for joining. Two of UNDP's regional initiatives promoting fair business environment in ASEAN, FairBiz and Youth Collab, have launched a toolkit to support young entrepreneurs in promoting business integrity. This is a knowledge product that will help young entrepreneurs and startup ecosystem enablers with guidance and tools to promote business integrity. Today we have experts from the startup ecosystem and across Asia, and they will talk about how fairness, integrity, and trust can help organizations grow. Along with FairBiz and Youth Collab, we're hosting this webinar with our local partner, National Incubation Centre, NIC. Welcome to everyone from FairBiz, Youth Collab, and from NIC. I would also like to add that UK government's Prosperity Fund, ASEAN Economic Reform Programme supports FairBiz, and the City Foundation is co-lead of Youth Collab. I'm also very excited to share that we have Deaf Talk with us today, and they will be interpreting the webinar for our participants with hearing impairment. Let's move on to the housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share the link of the recorded webinar along with the presentation with you. All attendees are on mute, but the Q&A box is open for questions. Please leave your questions in the Q&A box. We will try and answer all the questions that we can. In case we're not able to answer any questions, please leave your email addresses and we will get back to you. Also, please be assured that we will not in any circumstances share your personal information that we have received through your registrations with other individuals or organizations without your permission. However, we will be, and this is the youth program and UNDP, we will be sharing future training and webinar opportunities with you on your email addresses. Now, I would like to take everyone quickly through the agenda. I'm just going to share my screen. Right. Zara, can you tell me if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with the opening remarks from Ignacio Octaza, who is the resident representative of UNDP Pakistan. After that, we have Keelan. She is Youth Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation Consultant, Youth Collab. Welcome, Keelan. She will be doing the icebreaker session. Then we have Marcela Virutsky. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name a little bit wrong. She's the Transparency and Accountability Consultant with FairBiz project, and she is going to be introducing the Business Integrity Toolkit for young entrepreneurs. After that, we have Syed Hassan Ali, who is Principal Investment, Karandas, Pakistan. He will be talking about helping SMEs do business with integrity. Then we have Zohair Khalik, who is co-founder and partner at Team Up, National Incubation Centre. Zohair will talk about mobilizing young people in Pakistan to promote business integrity. After that, we have Lady Deandra, who is Youth Collab focal point for UNDP Indonesia, and she's going to be sharing case studies from Southeast Asia. Then we're going to do polling questions. Then we have 2 polling questions for everyone. After that, we have our team from Greenbox. We have Mohsin Gul, who is the team lead, and Shireen Mehri, who is the technical advisor, and they will be presenting as a case study from Pakistan. Then we have Moin Bartley, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Think, Build, Scale Private Limited company, and he's going to be sharing, talking about business integrity and corruption, regulations and compliances in Pakistan. Then we have Fayaz Yassin, who's the Director of Programs, and Bakhtawar Khalid, who is Program Officer, Accountability Lab. And they will be talking about how Accountability Lab promotes business integrity for young entrepreneurs in Pakistan. And towards the end, as we're closing the session, Akbar Durrani, who is youth employment and private sector development specialist from UNDP Pakistan, will be sharing the closing remarks. So I would like to invite, I'll just stop sharing my screen first. I would like to invite Ignacio Octaza, UNDP resident representative, to share his opening remarks. Welcome, Ignacio.
Thank you, Tabinda, and good morning, everyone, virtually. I think by now we have all gotten used to this way of communicating and working. And I guess it's going to stay for us for a while. But anyhow, it's great to be, to nevertheless to have technology to allow us to continue with our work and use this platform to host this webinar. Now, about today's webinar and the what we are launching here is basically to support young entrepreneurs in Asia Pacific, promote business integrity and adopt good governance practices. Two UNDP regional initiatives have launched the Business Integrity Toolkit for young entrepreneurs. One is the Promoting Fair Business Environment in ASEAN, known as FairBiz, and the other one is the Youth Collab. And our partners on both initiatives are, or the first initiative on FairBiz is the UK government's Prosperity Fund, Asian Economic Reform Program, and for Youth Collab is the City Foundation. FairBiz is a multi-year regional project which is implemented by UNDP in cooperation with the UK government to provide, to promote fair, transparent, predictable business environments by working with both governments and the private sector, with particular focus on 6 countries in the Asia Pacific region. Youth Collab, on the other hand, it was established, co-created in 2017 by UNDP and the City Foundation, and it aims to establish a common agenda for countries in Asia Pacific to empower and invest in youth, so that they can accelerate implementation towards the Sustainable Development Goals through leadership, social innovation, and entrepreneurship. Now, what's the objective of this toolkit for young entrepreneurs? It's basically to provide young entrepreneurs and the startup ecosystem enablers with guidance, practical tools to promote business integrity in the Asia Pacific region. This is an online resource and was developed by entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs, providing practical advice to those who are at an early stage of their business startup. To accompany the release of the toolkit, the Youth Collab and FairBiz launched a social media campaign from the 15th to the 21st of June, which this year, which you may have seen. And the idea basically is to encourage young people, governments, and those in the ecosystem across Asia Pacific to spread the knowledge that it is possible to do business with integrity. In support of the launch of the toolkit, UNDP, together with the Youth Collab and FairBiz teams, and as Tabinda mentioned, our local partner here in Pakistan, the National Incubation Centre, we're holding this webinar as one of the feature events during the regional campaign for the launch of the toolkit. And here I would also like to use the opportunity to acknowledge the UK government's Prosperity Fund, the ASEAN Economic Reform Program, and the City Foundation, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to have launched these initiatives and having this webinar today. Now, let me move on to talk a little bit about the core or the substance of the toolkit and what brings us here together. In a recent survey done by the World Economic Forum, poor governance and corruption were showed as being perceived by those considered as millennials as the main obstacle holding their countries back and depriving their generation of social and political economic opportunities. Anywhere between more than 70% of millennials thought that this was the case. So on the one hand, there's bribery and what's so-called facilitation payments are common practice in most Asia Pacific countries. In a survey done by Transparency International, 1 out of 4 people in the region acknowledged having paid a bribe in the previous 12 months to gain access to key public services. 1 out of 4. In some countries, such as India, Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam, the reported incidence of bribery is dramatically high, with rates above 40%. So that's quite significant. Then, of course, corruption. This also inhibits entrepreneurship and innovation for society as a whole. The higher cost of doing business, the reputational, legal, and operational risks discourage entrepreneurs and in many ways keep investors at bay from putting their money in new ventures. So it's no surprise that I would say in recent years that the issue of business integrity has come to the forefront of public and private agendas. Corruption and fraud misdirect public funds away from the people that are supposed to support. And the reality is that if we think in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, now COVID, of course, is creating additional challenges, but without substantially reducing corruption and bribery in all their forms, it's unlikely that certain of the SDGs would be achieved. And in particular, I'm thinking of 16.5, which is one of the targets within governance that addresses the issue of corruption. I mean, it's very much prevailing in our societies, and it's something that we must all work together to eradicate as we work towards the eradication of poverty. Another important priority for the Sustainable Development Goals is youth employment, and in particular decent jobs for youth, whereby young women and men have access to a decent, productive work where everyone benefits, both men, women, and therefore our future can be more, we can expect it to be more prosperous and equitable. And to achieve this, it is therefore critical that young entrepreneurs setting up their businesses for the first time, that they get started on the right footing. So the purpose of the toolkit and the webinar is to make a modest contribution to this goal by encouraging young people that are starting their own businesses to operate with integrity from the onset. And in this way, I would like to see it this way as well, to become role models, because societies are looking for role models. And there's not a better role model than one, that is leading by integrity and leading by showing the right example. Now, this webinar, I think Tabinda may have mentioned already, but it's bringing practitioners from the startup ecosystem from across Asia to lead the discussion on how fairness, integrity, and trust can help grow companies. This trust capital and enhance its attractiveness to investors and obviously impact the future of markets of society. We will be sharing practical success stories to highlight the importance of integrity and governance in setting up and nurturing successful businesses. Just 2 words on UNDP. Our youth empowerment program here in Pakistan is working towards improving the ecosystem for micro entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, by investing in training, mentoring, creating linkages with the market, potential investors, including also the digital market space, and overall increased efforts or collective action for women-led micro enterprises. Using this Business Integrity Toolkit, we also aim to promote integrity among young beneficiaries of the program and encourage our partners and key stakeholders to support young entrepreneurs in doing so. So therefore, it is very important that those that are aspiring to become entrepreneurs get the right messaging from those that are already there, that have done it, so that they get the right support and inspiration. So, just to close, I mean, I do hope that young entrepreneurs can start and run their businesses with integrity, seeing the value of operating with integrity as something that makes business sense. and in so doing that, this toolkit can be used as a guide by complementing or supplementing your ideas with new thoughts, commercial instincts, with clear values and a strong code of ethics, which is something that we need to embed further in our societies as a whole. So with that, I wish you, I wish us very productive and inspiring discussions. Thank you, and Davinda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ignacio. Now I'm going to invite Keelan for the ice-breaking session. I'm really excited to see how the ice-breaking session is going to be, because this is the first time I'm seeing it happening virtually. So over to you, Keelan.
Thank you so much, Tabitha. Hello, everyone. Hello, friends and partners in Pakistan and beyond. My name is, you can call me Linka. I am from Youth Collab Project. Super excited to be part of this ice-breaking session. And yeah, I think nowadays we're all trying to move every physical activities and events to be virtually available. So we're going to try this virtual icebreaker. So there are two purposes of this icebreaker. Sorry, I think I'm speaking too fast. So there are two purposes of this icebreaker. So the first is to get to know who we are in this Zoom conversation. I think right now we have more than 60, almost 70 participants in the room. So, and then I'm gonna do an energy check of this room, how we are feeling right now today. So I'm gonna post 4 things that I want you to share in the chat box. So your name, the city that you are right now, and your organization, and how are you feeling. So I have 3 emoji that you can copy and paste to choose. Are you feeling happy, or just, a smiley face, or you're just feeling okay? Or you can choose to use your adjective, like I'm feeling curious, I am feeling excited. So go ahead and type the 4 things in the chat box: your name, the city you are in right now, your organization, and how you're feeling. Right. I can see a lot of people are sharing right now. So we have Muhammad from Demel. He's currently in Rawalpindi, and he's feeling very, very happy. And a lot of attendees are saying that feeling very well. So we have Amir from Karachi. He said that he's deaf, but we have an interpreter here. I hope that you are enjoying the session right now with us. We have Sean from Mardan KP from Barkat Foundation, very excited. We have our colleague April, Marcella from Bangkok UNDP Regional Office. They're all sharing their smiley face with everyone. Yeah, we have Laura right now in Islamabad from UNDP Pakistan. She's feeling motivated. Yes. Wow, I think my speed and also our interpreter, Mr. Raza's speed won't keep up with all the energy and excitement in the chat box right now, but I can see the energy of this room is all very excited, very happy. And yeah, all the smiley faces, a lot of partners, a lot of friends are in this conversation, and from different locations in Pakistan, right? So just a very quick energy check of of the participants, and also just to get to know who are in this call. So I hope that all of us can get to see who is here, and hopefully we get to connect afterwards. So thank you so much. That's just a quick icebreaker. I will hand over the floor back to Tapita. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linka. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to invite Marcella Vrutsky, who is going to give an introduction to the Business Integrity Toolkit for young entrepreneurs. And after Marcella's session, so I request all the panelists to have their cameras on. This is after Marcella's session, so that we can take a group picture together. And after that, you can switch them off as if you want. Thank you. Over to you, Marcella.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. It's nice to see, well, I have quite a lot of people right now in the call. I'm going to share my screen with a little presentation about the Business Integrity Toolkit. So as you know, my name is Marcela. I'm originally from Brazil. You can all feel sorry for me now with the COVID situation in my country. So yeah, I'm a consultant at the FairBiz team based in Bangkok. We work, like Ignacio was saying, in 6 countries primarily. Now that we are working with Youth Collab on the toolkit and this program for young entrepreneurs, we are kind of expanding, and we are so grateful that we also have our colleagues in Pakistan that are putting so much effort into translating the toolkit and sharing and hosting this webinar, so that's great. So the FairBiz project is an initiative that tries to bring together different stakeholders from private sector, government, civil society, business associations to create a better business environment in ASEAN region. I'm not gonna go too much in detail, but where this initiative with the toolkit and the young programs for young entrepreneurs falls most under a program is encouraging responsible business practices. And this is why last year we partnered with the Youth Collab for let's say like a pioneering program that was to test our assumption that young entrepreneurs would be super interested in learning more about business integrity and improving their business practices and improving themselves as entrepreneurs to learn more about integrity. So last year in August, almost a year ago, we are joined by all these amazing people that came to the workshop, and our idea was to create a toolkit that was co-created by the Youth Collab community, or the incubators and the young entrepreneurs and UNDP offices and everyone who would be interested in joining. So we had this workshop last year, which was the very beginning of the toolkit, where we learned so much from all the people there. And one of the main, let's say like takeaways that was that everyone, 100% of people who came to the workshop and responded to our survey said that they see that business integrity is an issue and it's something that they do need to learn more about and do more about as young entrepreneurs. But at the same time, there's not many resources out there for young entrepreneurs to learn more about this topic and to progress. And we are like not surprised, but we are also super excited to create this resource and to provide guidance and knowledge and support and the toolkit itself. So some of the takeaways that we got from this workshop, and that is something that is the base of the toolkit, is that as a young entrepreneur, the things that you can do is start by learning and sharing knowledge with others, which is partially was on the toolkit, and also being curious enough to go look for information. And we hope that the toolkit will be the beginning of knowing where to go for information and where to find resources that are going to help you as an entrepreneur. And then put in place the key policies and practices that I'm going to share a little bit more about when we talk about the toolkit structure and what kind of tools and content is available there. Putting in place the governance structure. So it's not only about you as the founder or the business owner, but you also had to bring on board your business partners, your employees, and everybody who's part of the organization or the stakeholders, and create that structure that is going to allow the company to actually operate with integrity, instill the right values and culture. So this is a very important one, and currently is where our starting point when we do trainings about the toolkit. So how do I, as a young entrepreneur who is I'm starting my business and I might have all these values. So how do I make them reflect on the way that my company operates, the people I hire, how I interact with my stakeholders. And the fifth thing is the collective action aspect that was quite big in the workshop as well. People want to be part of this community of people, of other people who are also interested in doing business with integrity and want to do something to improve the business environment for everyone. So this was let's say like the 5 main takeaways from the workshop, and is the basis of the toolkit and all the programs that we are currently implementing and want to implement in the future that is based on the toolkit content. So this is, let's say, like the cover of the toolkit. It was a whole process of getting inputs from all the young entrepreneurs and incubator partners. Hello? Yep. That participated in the workshop. So just talking a little bit about the structure. So we have some introductory concepts for people to understand what is the drivers of business integrity, corporate governance, international rules. We also have some sections right more in the end that is more focused on the local context, which we hope that is gonna, every time, for example, the colleagues in Pakistan translated the toolkit, so you can add on to that part and add more local context information about what is the regulations in Pakistan, or for example, we have a program right now in Vietnam that we are funding. So they're adapting the content of the toolkit to be focused on Vietnam, and it's gonna actually be like the resource for young people to, like, let's say like a one-stop shop where they can go and look for information about how things work in the country, because we know it's all different. This is a regional toolkit that is a bit more broad, but we hope that what the incubators and all of you guys that are using the toolkit can contribute as well and feed into it and have more context information. So on the toolkit, we're talking about the concepts, and then the next section is it's very practical guidance on how to keep your business in order and prevent, detect, and respond to corruption issues that may probably are already happening to anyone who's operating a business. So just talking a little bit about the structure, how it works. We have the sections, for example, in the prevent section, we are talking about identifying, analyzing risk, and then you see the toolbox sign on the side, and you can click and you find the resources. So for example, this is a guide on how to develop a code of conduct that was developed by one of the participants of the workshop last year. His name is Daniel from Malaysia. So you can click on the images and you're gonna find the guide, and you might find templates. And for example, in other sections, when we talk about drivers of business integrity, we also worked with the participants from the workshop to collect case studies, that are live case studies of young entrepreneurs, and talks about the things that they have gone through, and it can give you an idea of, oh, this also happened to me, and how can you go about when these things happen. So just going back to this session, for example, we have a few like very practical things of, for example, how to say no. On this section, there's literally a list of ways that you can communicate how to say no to a bribe, or how to say no to somebody who wants somebody that wants you to behave in a way that lacks integrity, let's say. So we are hoping this will be a very practical guide. But at the same time, we know that this is a PDF document, and the most important part is how you're going to use it. So we hope that like you begin to by downloading and familiarizing yourself with the topic. And if you're an incubator, or if you're an educational institution, or you work supporting young entrepreneurs, that you incorporate into your programs. And from our side, we have already started incorporating into the Youth Collab program on Springboard. So we had our first module now is live, and we are going to have our first, let's say, cohort of young people who have participated in the Springboard module, and we are going to add on more modules as we go. So this is the first one, and we are super happy to see that people are actually using the toolkit and implementing. And we are also hoping to have more activities in the future. And here is the toolkit with the QR code that you can download. On the same page is the English and the Urdu version. And we hope that if you have an interest in disseminating the toolkit, or if you want to organize events, and if you want to organize training, you can also contact us. And you can subscribe to our mailing list, or if you want to be a part of the community that receives updates on future trainings and future activities that are definitely going to happen, starting with we are hoping to have more national campaigns and more translation of the toolkit. And we hope you can also give us some feedback about how is it going for you. So if you subscribe to the mailing list, we are working on creating this channel with everybody who is part of the community of people who are toolkit users. And I think that's it from my side.
Thank you, Marcella. That was really helpful. I also just want to add that in UNDP Pakistan, we had this toolkit translated in Urdu as well for our social entrepreneurship community in Pakistan. Okay, so I just want to add that if all the panelists can have their cameras on, and if we can take a quick group picture, and after that I will invite the next speaker. Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, so our next speaker is Syed Hassan Ali. He's the principal investment Karandas, Pakistan, and he's going to talk about how SMEs do businesses with integrity. Over to you, Syed Hassan Ali.
Thank you very much, Tabinda. Great to be here and great to be part of this forum in this discussion. Just to give you a quick background about me, I'm an ACCA by qualification and started my career with KPMG in the M&A team. From there, I moved to BMA Capital and I was the senior vice president for the investment banking division. From there, I moved to Abraj Group and then I joined Karandas Capital in their investment team about 2 years ago. So integrity, as being with many of these large organizations, I've learned I've learned about integrity and faced issues relating to integrity in my line of work. So a lot of things which I will be talking about are already in the toolkit that is being launched today, but also from a little bit of a practical, from a practical angle on how to look at it in a more simpler way and how to implement it in your business and why it is important for each and every business regardless of the size that you operate in. So I'll start off by sharing my presentation. It's a small presentation, so we'll go through it pretty quickly. So the topic I'm going to speak about is helping SMEs do business with integrity. And of course, the first thing that comes to mind is with respect to what is integrity. What is integrity? Why is it good for business? And how you can implement it in your business into the day-to-day operations that you run. So business integrity in the simplest form is general ethical ideas being applied to business behavior. So ethics, we know, is a concept of right and wrong. It tells us what is moral or immoral, and it is the form of a fundamental human relationship on how we expect to be treated and how we expect to treat other people. Ethics, of course, it comes from your own upbringing. It comes from your religion. It comes from your society, and it also they are also driven by legal developments in the business community and in general. So a lot of these ethics are moral behaviors, and they are written in principles, and they provide as a guide. They are the compass or a guide for you when you're going through your day-to-day business activities. So integrity is good for business. As I said, regardless of the size of the business, one has to look at integrity because, first of all, there are legal requirements that business of every size has to follow. And of course, there's a demand from the stakeholders. So if you have investors coming into your business, they have a reputation and they want you to act in a way. Personally, if you have it in place, you are promoting your own morality, you're minimizing harm to the business, and of course, it adds to the performance of your business. So what are the common issues which arise and which cause integrity issues in the business? So some of the key reasons I've listed here are, of course, personal gains and selfish interests. And for example, just to give you an example, a salesperson may have some targets that they need to achieve, and to achieve that target, they may do anything that they want and compromise on the business integrity. Similarly, there are competitive pressures on the business itself. Being a senior key member or a senior management, you also have certain targets that you have to report to the board, to the shareholders, and in order to achieve that, you might take actions which are in contravention to the integrity. Of course, there are conflicts of interest in business. When you're doing businesses, of course, you know a lot of people, so these conflicts of interest, they need to come out upfront, and one needs to manage these conflicts of interest. There's corruption in businesses, and there's bribery, as we discussed in the opening remarks. Also, it's a big issue in many South Asian countries. So to implement the two approaches to business integrity, and these are important because we need to understand that the business is in the hand of the people who represent us on daily basis. So being an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you are the CEO, so it is in your hand. When you will realize that the people who are representing you on the ground, they are the people who are going to represent the business, and your integrity is also in their hands on daily basis. So the minimum approach to this is compliance. One needs to comply at a minimum with legal regulations, which are anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist funding regulations, and some local regulations like Sindh Bribery and Corruption Act or Punjab Anti-Corruption Ordinance, etc. So this approach is the minimalist approach. At a minimum, one has to comply with legal obligations. A more holistic approach is the integrity-based approach, where you take the approach that it's not only the legal matters that you need to address, but also the issues that we discussed, which relate to employees and general performance of the business. So you need to promote a culture of integrity and honesty and fairness throughout the organization, so your employees understand, and the people you interact with, they also understand what kind of person or what kind of business you are and what kind of dealings they will expect from you. To implement this approach, I've summarized it and made it as simple as possible. And so we'll discuss that. It'll be. I was looking at the toolkit table of content, and from the discussion, a lot of this will be, I'm sure, covered in more detail in that presentation. So there are four steps that I would like to highlight here or discuss here, which create a culture of business integrity. So it's about culture. One needs to create a culture of integrity, and that is, of course, number one, driven from top down. So the top management, the board of directors, the CEOs of the companies, it is their responsibility to foster employee ethical behavior on their own, and they take the responsibility for implementing these. One of the ways to nominate a business integrity leader depends on how big or small your business is. If it's a small startup with 4 or 5 people, maybe one of the co-founders is the business integrity leader. If it's a larger organization, then maybe it's the audit committee which is leading this, and one of the members of the audit committee is the business integrity leader. Second thing that one needs to do is have written principles or code of business integrity. It's basically a book on what of the do's and don'ts. It's a guide for managers and employees, and it's widely distributed and promoted throughout your organization to each and everyone. And it should cover basic things like accepting and refusing gifts from or to suppliers, and customers. It is about identifying and avoiding conflicts of interest. And it is about maintaining the security of proprietary information that the business generates. The third thing one needs to implement is, of course, the integrity book itself will get complicated. So one also needs to create some sort of a guidance and monitoring mechanisms. It's often called a helpline. It could be a simple email for compliance where people can raise their concerns or ask queries about if they are having certain issues that they need to address, or take guidance on how they can address certain issues as they're going about their business and dealing with various kind of people. And the last one is a reporting mechanism. It's a simple thing where if certain issues are being if certain unethical practices are being conducted and one sees it, one has a way to tell an anonymous way to report it, often called whistleblowing. It draws attention to something which is going on, and it creates a culture of safely reporting unethical conduct. To close this small presentation, so the key point I want to highlight is that these businesses, these 4 principles essentially are there to create a culture of integrity. And one should realize that integrity is in the hand of everybody, and it's in the hands of the people who are out there representing your business on day-to-day basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Next, I'm going to invite Zohair Khaliq, who is going to be talking about how can young people in Pakistan be mobilized to promote business integrity. Over to you, Zohair.
Thank you very much, Tavinda. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everybody. I'm the co-founder and of Team Up, which runs the National Incubation Centre in Islamabad. My co-founder, FairBiz is also the project director of the Incubation Centre. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the subject at hand, which everybody else has been talking about a little bit. Just to give you a background about myself, like Hassan, I'm a chartered accountant from the UK, and all good people are. And at the same time, I've also done about 30 years in telecom and technology, and obviously the latest venture that I'm involved in is Team Up and the National Incubation Centre. I'm going to start trying to share this slide presentation with you. Just give me a second. No, that's not the one. So I'm having trouble with sharing a slide at the moment. What I'll do is I'll just quickly talk you through it. So a lot's been said about business integrity already. And the way I see it is it's about obviously the moral conduct that everybody is responsible for their own lives, in their businesses, with their employees, and also with suppliers, with customers, and so on. But I look at integrity as something that is even a bigger word to me. When you Google the word integrity, there's a lot more that pops up, and I think we shouldn't ignore those parts and aspects of integrity. Obviously, there is the usual ones which we will go through, but it's also about just plain honesty. It's about putting others' needs first. It's about caring about what others are thinking. It's about also giving the benefit of doubt to other people, whether it's in your personal lives or in business, because integrity is not something that you only practice in business. It's something that you do on a daily basis as part of your life. It's about showing respect. It's about showing up on time. It's one of the biggest issues that I sometimes see people practicing is that they do not keep to their commitments, they don't show up on time to something. I think those things are extremely important and are very much a huge aspect of integrity as far as I'm concerned. Just, manifesting humility in everything that you do on a daily basis is also about integrity. So I wanted to cover those aspects as well, because sometimes we just focus on the bribery and corruption aspect of things and ignore everything else. But to me, it's far more holistic in the way we do this. Also, in today's business integrity, the problems are about things like data breaches, cyber theft. It's about, undue favoritism with people in the environment. And it's overall trying to conduct business on a daily basis and facing things like economic loss and the loss of opportunities because of, the lack of integrity in the ecosystem. So the way we want to present this at Team Up and the National Incubation Centre is saying, the youth of this country, how are you going to take this challenge? Are you going to actually take it up and make the changes which are necessary for this country and the region to become that much more recognized for this quality of integrity and honesty? And the way we do this is through two programs that we run at Team Up. One of them is called the Career Launchpad, and the other is, of course, the National Incubation Centre. And it's focused on fresh graduates, young entrepreneurs, professionals, but also mid-career professionals who are looking to maybe do a restart of what they're thinking in their lives. So the Career Launchpad is something that I wanted to focus on for a minute or two. It's a professional fellowship program that we run at Team Up, and it provides the opportunity for professional development at different career stages, as I mentioned earlier. We have over 100+ mentors on board. It's a 6-month program where you basically join up to learn the necessary skills around integrity, honesty, and conducting business. And it's something I always, we were joking the other day, something that they unfortunately do not teach you at business school. But here's something that the Career Launchpad will definitely impart. And I think it's very, very important that our young people particularly, are able to learn those things as they go through their lives. So it's obviously business integrity is an essential skill, and it is part of the program. And we teach it through curriculum sessions, but also through mentoring programs where we will have a mentor assigned to a startup, to an entrepreneur, a young CEO who's struggling to cope with all the different challenges that the world presents on a daily basis. And also, I think it introduces best practices, international practices, such as the guidelines from the Accountability Lab, and so on. So we also work with a number of universities like NUST in Pakistan, FAST, TMUC, the Roots Millennium Schools, and we are in the process of launching programs with each one of these, which are focused around the imparting of knowledge on integrity and business integrity. So that's something that we are contributing to as we speak. Career Launchpad also aims to partner with private sector organizations. So people who are looking to hire young people can actually have them come out of the Career Launchpad knowing that these people have a far greater knowledge and in-depth program around integrity and honesty in the business that they're going to be conducting, or the professions that they're going to be practicing. And it obviously teaches you about accountability and the improving standards of transparency in yourselves, your businesses, and in government and local institutions as well. The role of the National Incubation Centre obviously has been key over the last 3 years, and we're very happy, very proud to be part of the UNDP partnership program as well. And again, here, apart from teaching people the basic principles of starting a business, obviously developing and taking the business to market, making it successful, we teach people about, through curriculum sessions, through mentorship, we teach them about dealing fairly with vendors, customers, employees, partners, and so on. And practicing the very, very basic principles of transparency and integrity when dealing with investors, because it's very, very important that if you as a startup or a young entrepreneur are going out there to raise funding, you have to be completely transparent and honest with your investors, because otherwise the game isn't going to go very far. Again, the test of integrity also comes in your business on how you deal with your customers, your clients, your products, and how you put them out into the market, your services, how you put those into the market, and then also setting realistic customer expectations about how your business is being conducted, and that gives people the confidence in your business. It therefore obviously means that the business is going to be far more successful than you would have anticipated if you had not practiced the principles of integrity and honesty. We also have an outreach program at the NIC where we work with run workshops and boot camps around the principles of business integrity and ethics. And we work and collaborate with various universities and schools now, and especially final year students who are just preparing to go into a profession or launch a business themselves. So that's, we believe it's a fairly comprehensive, fairly holistic way of covering the various different streams where youth is right now, preparing to come out and do conduct the next stages of their lives. So in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that it's not just about business integrity, it's about personal integrity on a daily basis, whether it's with your family, it's your friends, your partners, your employees, and so on. And it's about, when you practice integrity on a daily basis, if there is a crisis that you end up facing, you're far more likely to come out of that crisis in a more favorable way and with a more secure future at the end of it, because people will recognize that even in the worst of times, you were there to practice the best principles of integrity and honesty. And that's really what I wanted to say today. I apologize again for not being able to screen share. I think it was just the wrong format, but I hope I've covered everything that I wanted to. Thank you very much. You can reach us at the NIC through nicpakistan.pk, and Team Up again is just teamupgroup.pk. So feel free to reach out whenever you need to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zahir. Okay, next up we have the poll. If I can request Zara to help me with the poll.
Okay, I'm going to launch the poll now.
I'll read out the question as well. So our first question is that the Business Integrity Toolkit identified 4 drivers of business integrity, but a company's attitude to business integrity depends on you and your team's personal systems of belief. Which one of the main drivers of business integrity? Which one is the main drivers of business integrity in your organization? Yes, in your company. Your own moral compass, number 1. Number 2, the quality of your management system. Number 3, the land of the law. Number 4, international best practices. Okay, should we move on to the next question? Okay, the next question is, oh no, this is the, yeah. Okay, the next question is, are you familiar with corporate governance laws in your country? Yes, no, somewhat. Okay, so we've ended the poll, and for the second question, our responses are that somewhat people are familiar with the corporate governance laws in the country. Okay, thank you so much, Sarah, for facilitating this. Next up, I'm going to call Lady Deandra, and she is the Youth CoLab focal she's a Youth CoLab focal point in UNDP Indonesia, and she's going to be presenting case study from Southeast Asia. Over to you, Lady Deandra.
Okay, thank you, Tabinda. Hi, everyone. Let me just have a minute to share my screen. Okay, wait. All right, so hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Before we start and introduce myself, maybe could I have I actually have sent Abinda a list of poll question before I start to ask some question about how much the current participants know about Indonesia. Is it still possible or not, Tabinda?
Sorry, what was your question again?
The quiz that I have sent, the quiz questions. Is it possible to have it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
otherwise I can just have the quiz and they can answer it through the Zoom chat box.
Okay, let me check with Zara on that, and I will share it with you. Hold on.
Thank you.
Zara, is it possible to share the responses on the screen right now?
Okay, just a second.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. That's a good information on my side. Maybe before we start, I would like to ask a quick question. The first one is, how many of you know the capital city of Indonesia? If you know what is the capital city of Indonesia, please just share it in the chat box so that I can figure out how many of you actually know about the capital city of Indonesia. All right, that's good to know. I can tell that most of the participants actually know the capital city of Indonesia. Okay, so here is the picture of capital city of Indonesia. I hope that a fun quiz would actually refresh our minds, because I'm pretty sure that we have heard a lot of speakers before me, and I hope that it could lift up our spirits. Here are some pictures about the capital city of Indonesia. Here's Jakarta with a beautiful skyline. And as you can tell, Jakarta is a busy city with a lot of businesses going on. But still, we also have our development issue with the disparity going on, sanity issues, and also environment challenges that exist in our capital city. But besides Jakarta, I also would like to introduce how beautiful Indonesia is besides Jakarta and Bali. That is very much well known. Here are some pictures about the beauty of Indonesia that probably could refresh our eyes. Okay, and here we have a picture of Labuan Bajo, one of the most beautiful island in Indonesia. So, okay, moving on from that, I hope that that is enough to lift up our spirits and listen to my session about the case study on business integrity in Indonesia. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Lady Diandra. You can call me Diandra. And I'm from Innovative Financing Lab in UNDP Indonesia, mainly working in impact investing window. I have worked with UNDP since 2018, starting as an intern, dealing with Youth Collab, and now I'm the Youth Collab focal point for Indonesia, along with my colleague as well. Speaking about business integrity in Indonesia, I think it's best for us to understand about the economic background of Indonesia. So just to share a little bit, Indonesia is the largest economy in Southeast Asia. It's actually 10 biggest in the world based on its power purchasing parity. And Indonesia is an emerging lower middle income country with more than 300 ethnic groups. So we can tell how diverse this archipelagic country is. And another fun fact about Indonesia, Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous nation. It has 267.3 million people, where most of them are living in the business hub such as Jakarta, Bandung, Bali, Surabaya, and Makassar. Those are the fun facts of Indonesia that I would like to share to everyone. Moving on to the business facts in Indonesia. The ease of doing business in Indonesia is actually not so bad. We're at 73 out of 100. But the last time I checked with the World Bank website, it's actually still lower than Pakistan. So the ease of doing business in Indonesia is actually still lower than Pakistan. Hold on a minute. Let me just mute. Okay, so another fun fact about Indonesia is the business density of Indonesia is still at 0.3. We can tell that it is still considered low if compared with other countries. So knowing these challenges, knowing this fact from Indonesia, we started to think about what is actually the biggest challenge in ease of doing business in Indonesia. Why are the business density in Indonesia is still low? So when we thought about the biggest challenge, is we understand the biggest challenge in developing business environment in Indonesia is actually regulation challenge in employment protection, in their payment rate, the reforms regarding starting businesses, paying taxes, trading across borders, improving electricity and enforcing contracts that become one of the part of the constraints the business have to face when they want to develop business in Indonesia, especially with the current condition of COVID-19. It can be even more challenging than this. So knowing that the business have this challenge regarding regulations, government officials and also business actors start to find what is the possible getaway for us to develop a business in Indonesia. As you can tell that we have this market, a healthy market with a great power purchasing parity, but then at the same time, they also have this barrier to entry for business. And then the gateway that is growing as a culture in Indonesia is the KKN. We call it KKN because it is short for korupsi, kolusi, nepotism, or in English, it would be stated as corruption, collusion, and nepotism. It is one of the biggest challenge faced by government officials and also business actors in Indonesia. And we can tell that it started to grow rampantly, especially in the late 90s and also in the early 20s. And it's still existing until right now. There are three main reasons why the culture is actually growing. The first one is the more successful the business, the more business will be asked to pay for the government officials or their partners, especially when you're doing contract with the authority, or especially when you're doing contract in a certain area where the authority would ask for benefits for them, for you to have your business in that area. And second is the entrance culture of corruption creates expectation from both bureaucrats and society. So it becomes somewhat a new normal. There's this gray areas on whether you should actually, for example, whether you should actually give a gift to an official to say thanks that you're allowed to develop your business in their area. And third, as I mentioned, bribery and corruption are seen as somewhat normal in this country, especially in the late 90s and also early 2000s. Understanding this, the government started to understand that this culture is actually not beneficial for the development of the country. There is this research from Asian Development Bank in 2016 showing that the higher the corruption perception index is the lower the GDP growth. So we can tell that back at that time we have a very low score, which means that the corruption is still high. The GDP growth is also low. So in order to solve that, the government have 6 policies aimed to eradicate corruption in businesses in all measures, including business integrity. This has resulted in Indonesia ranked 85th in the corruption level in the world, which actually way so much better than we have back in the past. The level of disclosure on business in Indonesia is actually not bad. It touched the average of ASEAN countries, which is 51 out of 100. And something that makes us proud is the business environment in Indonesia, ranked 26 out of 140 countries in this world. All right, so moving on to the next topic. However, we can tell that the gap with the policies coming from the government are mainly focusing on the big companies, and we're not saying that it's bad, because when business integrity programs start to be implemented, we have to target the strategic partners. But then it seems to leave the youth entrepreneurs, who are mainly rapidly growing in this country as well. So on youth entrepreneurs, right now the government and the stakeholders in business environment is basically facing a new element of challenge, which is the growth of startup that is mainly led by youth entrepreneurs. With this new startup development that is mostly tech-based in Indonesia, we can tell that the policy framework for this startup development are not ready yet. So mostly they are considered as micro and small medium enterprises. So with that, there is this new element of challenge in implementing business integrity for startup, especially when they're facing the new policy and also the unreadiness for the local government. For example, in Indonesia, we have this one huge big startup, which is Tokopedia. They're facing this business integrity issue when their employees are using discounts provided by the company, and it overlaps with business integrity issue of Tokopedia. And another one is the fintech companies. The growth of fintech companies in Indonesia have been very quite rampant actually, and they're facing a big challenge where there are some people who are misusing fintech or crowdsourcing or crowdfunding for their own benefits. So, okay. With knowing that we have this challenge, especially if any one of you have read the report regarding how youth entrepreneurs are dealing with business integrity issue, in Asia Pacific, we can tell that there are at least 30% of youth experience corruption in the last 12 months. And 79% of business leaders recognize corruption as a major challenge for their business operations, including youth entrepreneurs. So for that, Youth Co-op Indonesia and also the FairBiz team in Indonesia, as supported by the Bangkok Regional Hub, we created this program to promote Business Integrity Toolkit. The first event that we have is we would like to first introduce Business Integrity Toolkit and how young people, especially young entrepreneurs, could benefit from this toolkit. The first thing that we have is we host an event with our communication team. We have this monthly event called SDG Talks. So that day we discuss about how we can walk the talk in implementing business integrity as early as possible. Turns out it is one of the most successful SDG talk. We thought it was because we have a very famous band coming, but then we held the survey and it turns out that young people are very much invested in the idea of living in transparent, clean government where business integrity is being implemented. As you can tell in the pictures, it was quite crowded. We have at least nearly 100 participants, about 80 to 100 participants coming and discuss about their experience in facing corruption and how they deal with it. Yeah, sorry, my screen freeze. Yeah, for this event, we actually invited lots of stakeholders to discuss their experience and what are their tips for young people in facing business integrity issues. We have people coming from the media, we have people coming from UNDP Indonesia, House of Representative member that actually attend this event, showing how the government is committed to fighting corruptions and integrity issue, as well as startup representative coming to this event. Knowing that the first pilot of introducing Business Integrity Toolkit went well, we plan to have we plan to have a alliance on business integrity for youth entrepreneurs, because this is actually the first one business integrity alliance for young entrepreneurs in Indonesia. So we can tell that UNDP and FairBiz team and Youth Co-op is the pioneer in this case. And second one, we plan to have a, sorry, I think my screen freeze. But the second one that we plan to have is business integrity training of trainers. Business integrity training of trainers. They aim to have 100 participants coming from government, incubator, and also young entrepreneurs to join this training of trainers. That would be consist of 2 days and also some mentorship added to the element of that training of trainers. The materials that we will be sharing is basically the same with what Marcella have shared. It's managing risks and opportunities in business integrity, keeping their business in order, working together for business integrity, with emphasis on the gray areas. Because another fun fact about Indonesia, it used to be led by kingship. So we run this culture where whenever we receive an access or ease of doing business, because an authority allow us to do so, we would like to return the favor, like what we did back in the past of this kingship rules in Indonesia. So that is somewhat considered as the biggest challenge in gray areas of implementing business integrity. So that's our thing that we would like to highlight as well in our training of trainers. Here are the 3 reasons why we would like to motivate young people to implement the Business Integrity Toolkit, because running and implementing business integrity have its own benefits. The first one is if you're not implementing business integrity, you're faced with legal risk and reputation risk. And the second one, it's actually cost you some money if you constantly not implementing the idea of business integrity. It could bring financial loss to your business, and government also have its own loss due to fraud, corruption, and shady business transaction. And the last one is basically about the erosion of internal trust and confidence that is basically fundamental when it comes to building a solid team to develop your business. So in conclusion, for my presentation, I just would like to share that the economy of Indonesia is basically growing, and we're still facing a rampant cases of corruption, and it is basically difficult situation for us to face these challenges on business integrity. So regardless of how difficult it is, we can tell that the environment are constantly fighting to implement business integrity, fighting corruption, collusion, and nepotism. And well, we as UNDP Indonesia believe that young people have a say in this. Young people as the future have the power to write their own future for a clean, more transparent government, and also business. And basically, yeah, that's all from me from UNDP Indonesia. I hope that the presentation is useful. While we're at it, maybe I would like to motivate everyone in the chat room to also do the quiz on checking their business integrity. I can share the link just in case if Marcella or Linka haven't really shared it, so that we as young entrepreneurs can also check our business integrity knowledge. That's all from me, Tabinda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lady Tiandra, for presenting the case study. I'm just going to request everyone, all the panelists once again, if we can have our cameras on. The challenge with our virtual workshops is that we sort of, don't get to interact with each other or to see. So this is like for a pulse check and, for a picture as well. So it's good. That's how we create the human element and the human interaction where we can see everyone. Okay. I am just going to take another picture as well right now. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to invite our next speakers they are our partners and colleagues from Green Box. I'm going to invite Mohsin Gul, who's a team lead, and Shireen Mehri, who's a technical advisor, to present a case study from Pakistan. Over to you, Mohsin Gul and Shireen.
Thank you, Tavinder. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. I'm Mohsen and I'm joined by my colleague Shireen, and together we'll be talking about a localized case study in Pakistan. So building on what Lady talked about in the state and the conducive ecosystem of the infrastructure that the country can really provide you, we'll give you more of an organizational overview of our experiences as an organization in Pakistan, working with a lot of young people. But a fun fact about myself, I've worked in the Asia Pacific region and with a lot of young people from different countries, including Indonesia. And one thing that is, there are a lot of similarities in youth engagement, but one thing in Pakistan, which I've seen is more apparent than other countries, is this urge to be an adult more than a young person sooner in life than later. So the people are pushing you to be adulting in a lot of areas around your life. So we'll be talking about how that pushes you to just be an entrepreneur and how the distinction between young entrepreneur and entrepreneur starts to become blurry. I'll start sharing my screen now, and we'll be hopefully speaking in half and half. So I'll take you through the first half of the presentation, and then Shireen will talk to you. Right. So Greenbox is a baby product of me and my twin brother, Ehsan. You might have seen him around in the UNDP system. Greenbox, just like any other initiative, was just an idea which came at in the middle of the night when we were fighting over how we can start encouraging people to start living in a more sustainable manner in Pakistan, especially young people. And we concluded that, oh, okay, maybe we need to create a space to nurture that sort of leadership thinking in Pakistan. And we started to think of how we could engage young people across Pakistan for environmental action and accountability across various sectors of sustainability in the country. Now, what we really struggled with, which I'll talk to you in a bit, is what is young anyways? What is youth in Pakistan? A lot of people consider young people as one broader group. That's not true. It includes a lot of different groups, including it could be disaggregated on the basis of gender, ethnicity, your religion, your so on and so forth. So there are a lot of marginalized and vulnerable groups that become part of this young cohort as well. So we are trying to make these people, all of them, powerful engines for, as I said, environmental action and accountability, and trying to engage over 10,000 people in the next decade or so. We do not have a very large target in terms of number, only because we believe to become a powerful engine, you have to go through a process of learning the systems, then going in the community and implementing stuff and giving back as much as you can. So we just don't want people to go through a certain training and stuff and then leave it to that. So we're trying to create a network or a community of these change makers through 4 major areas. We are encouraging people to start thinking in terms of green innovation or green jobs. We are working with UN Environment on a global environment outlook for youth summer school in Pakistan and in the Asia Pacific region. We've just launched the first or in process of launching the first degree program in climate change in Pakistan, which was solely made by an all-girl team. So a new degree program on gender and climate change will be launching soon at Punjab University in Pakistan. We're currently working on a One Health analysis or an analysis of how climate change is going to exacerbate the existing realities of health systems in Pakistan and how the setback by COVID-19 is going to impact the whole ecosystem across health to green innovation to sustainability education and of course gender. So it all started, we were very privileged and lucky to have access to University of Cambridge Social Venture Program back in 2016. Ehsan and I were the youngest in the cohort. We felt very intimidated. We were brown in almost all white room. So a lot of biases and prejudices come into play when you're trying to prove to them how important it is to talk about a soft element or an intervention on educating people on the importance of something which they might have been doing for years. So we really struggled and tried to identify positionality across it. Then again, I'd say it was privileged to have taken that vision to UNESCO headquarters. And from there, there's a whole journey of mismatch and trying to pivot the idea. And finally, last year, we were recognized by the UN Environment as one of the regional young champions of the earth in the region. So that is validating your work, but more than validating, it really proves that we didn't give up. And that's what we'll try to talk you through today. I wanted to take you through the 4 drivers which the toolkit has put together. I'll be talking about the first 2 drivers, and then Shireen will talk you through the next 2. For us, or for any organization, for a young person, I think for me, the driver is navigating your own moral compass and your integrity. So I've heard the word integrity all day today. And for me, integrity is also the integrity of ideas. It was very easy to give up because we do not have a very conducive ecosystem to work or start with. You'll always be tempted to give up. So I guess navigating that compass was really important. Initially, we had new ideas, but one thing that kept coming again and again was this urge of burnout because of the systemic challenges, but also because people want to adult you around. They would want you to start thinking in the same through the same bureaucratic lens, or the same organizational lens that applies across different organizations. And you may not necessarily agree with them, or you started an organization just because you didn't want to go with the status quo. So from having rejection or idea killing emails to a lot of people telling you, you know what, you're never going to earn from this. You know what, you could do this, you could do that. So people would always be giving you advice, but you have to learn how to filter it according to your integrity or your own honesty to the purpose you're doing this for. So your own moral compass is really important, not just for doing the business right, but also for why did you get into this in the first place. So that's something I struggle with a lot, to explain to people why I'm doing this. Because at one point, it was not financially sustainable. It was challenging. It is a software intervention. It's not a product you can easily sell in the market. You're working with educational institutes which are bureaucratic in nature. You're talking to ministries and to people who may adult you around, or they have that lens that we know better what's best for you. So how do you navigate through that is something which I really appreciate that the toolkit is encouraging you to start thinking around. And I appreciate the colleagues who had put this together. And I really hope that we can make it reach out to a lot of young people in Pakistan, because they can definitely benefit from it. Another key driver which was in the toolkit is how good is your management system? But then for an organization or for young people or a group of young people who just came together over a cause or an initiative and are really trying to give in all of their energy, but they have bills to pay, they have schools to go to, they have universities to attend, how effective they can be. Bursting my own bubble, it's as effective as I am myself, but it is painful. It's risk-taking, it's daunting, it takes all of your energy. But that's the fun part of it as well. But that also requires you to have very high sense of business integrity. How do you build a management system that's not just based on integrity, but also diversity? Especially working with young people, we faced a struggle of how do I open access to all? How do I make it less prejudice? How do I make it less, my own biases should not represent in the people I work with? Why I'm only tempted to hire international graduates, why I'm not able to reach out to rural communities. So these are some of the questions you have to ask yourself, and especially around volunteerism, because we are a mostly volunteer-centric organization. So Pakistan doesn't really have a very established ecosystem around volunteerism, which Shireen will talk about later. But for us, how to manage those group of people, we had no formal training into it. Unfortunately, people are not trained how to work with young people in Pakistan. There is no disclosure check for working with young people to begin with. I don't know how to navigate through the feelings of a certain young person in Pakistan. So we have to start bringing these big concepts of integrity, prejudice, and all these, and start to contextualize in the organizational context. Now I'll invite Shireen to talk you through the business culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohsen. So yes, for the local business culture for Greenbox, now I would want to share with you when we started off as essentially a virtual space. So it was all online. We had to be quite mindful as to how we were to approach this. And so one of the ways that was definitely on our mind was to make sure that this would be an inclusive space for all. So that means all genders, more specifically marginalized groups that otherwise are not able to access such programs, they would be more welcome in these spaces as well. Something that we saw from the get-go of our programs was an 80% participation rate from female participants, and they were really encouraged to be a part of our programs. And so one way in which we're making this an inclusive space, a space that allows for detailed discussion, but on very delicate topics. And so you want to make sure that values are respected, no one goes out of line. And so we had each and every participant that we engaged with sign a safe space clause before we began the relationship with them. And this was something that was maintained all through our virtual platforms. Of course, accountability and check plays a great role in this. So whenever we would see someone kind of falling off the radar with that, a difficult conversation, but a needed conversation was to be had. And this is something that kept us grounded as a team, and then as well as with our participants. When it comes to youth volunteerism, as Mohsen mentioned, it is a weak culture in Pakistan, specifically pertaining to the age group that we were working with. It's not a new concept, it's a concept that existed before. But since we are an entirely digital initiative, how is it that we can tackle all the challenges that presents, right? Being out of sight and out of mind. And so for that, we were able to come up with either incentives or other recognition ways where their contribution to the project was validated, seen, heard, and so they felt connected to the value that they were creating, because this was value that was being created not just in Pakistan, but all over. And so for the fourth international best practice, and this one is definitely something that's close to my heart, we at Greenbox, again, as Mohsen mentioned, due to the access to international networks and experiences, we were able to first gain recognition globally and then in Pakistan, and this was through varied experiences, bringing the focus, global and national focus, to the SDGs as well. That was something that was brought into our programs as well. And so one thing that's definitely important to keep in mind is, while working as a young startup in Pakistan in an ecosystem that chooses to work in silos more often than not, it can be pretty resource intensive, bringing the whole ecosystem together. But one thing that I can definitely assure is that barrier is even coming down as we go along. We have been able to identify partners that we can collaborate with. It is really important to know that reinventing the wheel is not always the way to go. There are quite a few organizations who are doing great work in Pakistan, and when we are able to kind of identify and create that relationship through which we can collaborate and launch initiatives, it's always something that is a win-win for everyone involved, and that is something that will definitely be coming out more from our platform. If there's anything that I'm missing, Mohsen, please go ahead and add. But I know one thing for me, I myself was in the UAE when the Greenbox was launched. And so I was out of Pakistan being engaged throughout virtually. And one thing that I've seen within the founding team of Greenbox, and something that's been repeated by all speakers previously, is instilling the right values, whether this comes from a moral compass or even just as an organization. And so taking the time out at Greenbox to identify those values has definitely been helpful, and you will see that in our future initiatives.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Just the last thing I wanted to say, as a young person who struggled to bring to surface such an initiative, just don't give up. And I honestly still don't have a management system, a computerized management system in place. It's mostly as active as I am. The day I get sick, things get to go bad, but it's okay, you'll get there. it's going to grow organically, but just don't try to understand these best practices and try to contextualize them in your own work. And again, one last thing, that you need to identify the motive you're in it for. If you're in it for money, it should be very clear and you create your systems around that way. But if you're in it for a social cause or both, then you have to navigate your path. So best of luck, and you can always reach out to our team for experience sharing. Thank you so much. Back to you, Tabitha.
Thank you so much, Mohsin and Shirin. That was brilliant. Okay, now I would like to invite Moin Bartley, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Think Build Scale Private Limited. And he's going to talk about business integrity and corruption, regulations and compliances in Pakistan. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Tabitha. Just a slight change, which is that I am going to talk generally about business integrity, but there's a bit more of a...
Sorry, I'm just going to... Yeah, there's actually a lot of disruption.
Maybe I'll try to... I'm going to share a presentation. I'll stop my video, because I think there's a...
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So... Okay, so I'm going to talk about things from a startup perspective, because that's my passion, and I think there's a lot. I have very strong feelings about this, startups in general and this issue in particular, because I feel that while we can talk about startups. Approaching their activity with integrity, with business integrity and uprightness, and I think rather than startups being approaching things with business integrity, I feel that the entire startup ecosystem needs to work with integrity. So it's not only startups. In fact, I feel that startups are, they are small. They're sort of like the underdogs, and they have less power. So in an ecosystem, those with more power, generally, unfortunately, there's sometimes the case of people with more power in a ecosystem abusing their power. So I think, to be fair, the entire ecosystem needs to work with integrity, and startups need to do their bit as well. But it's the other stakeholders as well who need to operate fairly and with integrity. So I'll just go ahead with my presentation. Maybe things will become a little clearer as I go ahead. So first, I just wanted to point out that the world for a startup, it's a very particular world, and it's a unique world. And a startup may be a formal entity, maybe an informal entity, and actually the degree to which a startup is formal or informal, I think dictates a lot as to how it would approach integrity, fairness, and being ethical. So that's one thing that needs to be kept in mind. The other thing I think that's important is, if you look at it, try to look at things from a startup's perspective. I launched Think Build Scaled Private Limited last year, and this focuses on CPEC projects as well as education training. But it's a tough environment to operate in, as everybody knows. So look at it from a startup's perspective. A startup has various needs. Okay, it springs from an idea to solve a problem. Then it needs a plan to undertake its journey. It needs a team. It needs funding. Then it needs to treat its investors and customers fairly. Okay, so the world for a startup is tough. It's intense. It's overwhelming. That would be the I guess the one word that describes you know, especially in this context, in the context of integrity. Now, you know, so integrity and fairness, there are various buckets. And so if you take the bucket of funding and managing a startup, then integrity and fairness means something else. Now, for funding and managing, I think what's important is that the founders, investors, and managers of the startup, they must have a clearly defined relationship. And parts of that are that the founders and managers must be compensated fairly. Abuse and managerial capture by investors must be avoided. This, unfortunately, for any new, you know, a country that is entering into the startup realm, the abuse and sort of dominance from the powerful actors, which are the investors and financiers, this is quite common. And in fact, I would say in Pakistan, this is unfortunately quite common, where the investors, because they have the financial, you know, power, they do not treat the founders and you know, the managers of the startup fairly, and they sort of misuse their clout and their financial power to control things. So this must be avoided. Agreements, plans, and structures must be legally and formally made. And then, you know, you need to have integrity and truthfulness on both sides. The startups and investors, they need to be truthful to each other. The investors need to be truthful as to how they're going to sort of manage this relationship, how much leeway, how much flexibility they'll give the startup, how much control they will actually have. And of course, the startup needs to come clean and say, okay, this is where we are. This is what our actual position is. This is how we're going to use the money, and this is our sort of forecast and how we see the next year, 2 years. The startup needs to be truthful. So both need to be truthful to each other. Now, if we look at the another bucket, which is operating the startup. So now this is a totally different bucket, and here the startup must follow the law, and it must have the appropriate legal structures and rules. There need to be appropriate plans and policies, you know, to run the different parts of the business. So, you know, I have a sort of a bias. Whereas on the one hand, I think it's really important to be morally sort of to have strong moral values and to sort of be ethical as a person or as a group. You know, the team being ethical as a group. I do feel that it's actually the management structure and the policies and plans that keep you ethical. So more important than your heart being in the right place, I think, is the structure. If you have a good management structure and good policies, then they'll keep you on the right track. Then, of course, the legal tax and customer protection obligations must be observed, and the startup must follow an ethical code of conduct. So there's a whole bunch of different, you know, a set of rules and guidelines that need to be followed to ensure integrity and fairness when it comes to operating a startup. Now, you know, the world of a startup is complicated, and a startup must act according to the country's ecosystem it operates in. Now, countries are quite different in the way they operate, in the way the ecosystem that they provide to a startup. And for example, you know, funding structures and mechanisms, the global sort of structure where you have the angel pre-seed funding or the seed, Series A, Series B funding, they are actually, the way they operate and the way they're structured is different in different countries. So when a startup is actually accessing global funding, of course, they need to follow the global structures because they're actually competing for money with other startups across the world. Or maybe let's say that funds could have a regional focus, so they're competing with other startups in the region. So they've got to follow that global structure. But when startups are focusing on local funding, which I think that in Pakistan, I think that there is a lot of capital, investable capital that can be tapped and is being tapped by startups, then the local norms have to be followed. And the point I'm trying to make is that, you cannot follow global sort of structures if that global structure doesn't exist in your country. You have to follow the structure that exists in your country. And a startup has the right to operate according to the local environment. While global best practices are good, and it's good to look at what's happening across the world, you have to operate in the environment you're in, and you have to do things, of course, legally and correctly and fairly. But you have to manage the environment that you're in. So you cannot have like a global superstructure sort of imposed on you, which would actually distort things. So I think it's important. It's important to get the global guidance. It's also important to be realistic and to operate in the local environment. Now, I think it's important for everybody, especially those wanting to nurture and encourage and support startups, to recognize that a startup is a unique social and economic construct. It needs nurturing from our society. And how can we ensure? It's important to have a toolkit and to provide resources, but it's how just looking at it in terms of human dynamics and in terms of how things work. What would it be that would what conditions would ensure that startups work with integrity and are ethical? I think if the legal, financial, and operational needs of a startup are met, then it will be easier for them to follow that path of integrity. And I think integrity and fairness is a two-way street. Startup must be upright, legal, and fair to all stakeholders, but then all stakeholders in the ecosystem must also be upright, legal, and fair, to the startup. So I think it's a very complex endeavor. It's a very important project, but I think that so the focus needs to be on the startup, but it needs to be on the whole ecosystem. So I think that's where this needs to be targeted, to the whole startup ecosystem. How to make sure that works with integrity. Okay, so ethical behavior, that's an important area for which a startup needs support. Now, look at once again, I'm putting the focus on trying to look at things from a startup's perspective, because I've launched several startups, and that's something that is something that I'm very focused on. So a startup is overwhelmed by designing, operation, finance, legal, and marketing, all of these challenges. Now we have it's not a new area, but maybe emphasis on it is new. This area of integrity and fairness. For it to be robust and for this to be ensured, this needs tons of support. And I think I'm very happy to see this toolkit, and I think this is one way. UNDP's Business Integrity Toolkit is one way providing the support. And it's also very good to know that it's been translated into Urdu. But I think from the legal and practice perspective, I think a Pakistani version, or perhaps parts of the toolkit which have the local context. I think this needs to be developed. I'm not sure, maybe this has already been done, but this is just something I think which is really important, and I think it's an ongoing endeavor which I think should be carried on. And of course, the more we work with incubators and accelerators, I think that they can help to accelerate this toolkit. That's it in terms of my initial thoughts. Be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whoever has questions, they can ask in the Q&A box, and we'll be responding to them. Thank you so much, Moin Barclay. Okay, so for our next speaker, I'm going to invite Fayaz Yassin. He's the Director Program and along with Bakhtavar Khalid, she's a program officer of Accountability Lab. And they will talk about how the Accountability Lab promotes business integrity for young entrepreneurs in Pakistan. I'm really excited to hear about their work because they have this excellent model of naming and faming. And yeah, that is very popular as well. So over to you, Fayaz and Bakhtavar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, UNDP and other partners for organizing such an important conversation. And I would also like to congratulate you guys on the launch of Business Integrity Toolkit for the young entrepreneurs. Also, you'll have to bear, with me without my video because signals are not very strong on my end, and I don't want this call to be disrupted or the voice quality to go bad. Before formally beginning and then talking about Accountability Lab's relevant work, I would like to, briefly introduce Accountability Lab. We are a civil society organization that works in 10 countries across the world, all locally registered, and we work to make governance work for people. We support active citizens, responsible leaders, and accountable institutions. There are actually two programs which we are going to talk about in today's discussion. One of them is our business accountability boot camps, which we have carried out with around 100 entrepreneurs from across Pakistan. And the other one is our another flagship program, which is called Accountability Entrepreneurship Program, which is led by my colleague Bakhtavar Khalid. Who's also joining us in today's conversation. So with the business accountability boot camps, we understand that many times when we talk about business ethics and business integrity, usually people take it as a concept which is good to have, or probably good to talk about or claim that we are ethical. Our business practices are ethical. We are a value-driven business. However, one of our learnings is that unless people see clear incentives of being ethical, it's relatively unlikely of them to strive to be ethical in whatever they do. So the hook that we use is something which we call that being ethical is being profitable. This is something that entrepreneurs need to understand. In a business environment, in countries like Pakistan, where distrust on businesses is very deep. We have seen even during this Corona pandemic, cases of hoarding, overpricing, these kind of things. Businesses usually they are not looked at very favorably. And then, the kind of reputation that Daraz had in Pakistan when initially, it was launched in Pakistan, the e-business was notorious for being fake and, providing and supplying substandard products to the people. So in that kind of environment, looking at the value of, being ethical, it's very important, given that, being ethical and being honest can immediately help one tap into a bigger market. Also, as some of the colleagues has also mentioned about it, the other point that we use as a hook is about we know that starting a startup is about finding a market gap and responding to that. But we try to tell our young entrepreneurs that, business growth is all about building reputation, and reputation comes from, convincing people, convincing customers, convincing stakeholders that you are an individual or a business company with integrity and honesty. Your dealings are fair. Your whatever you are promising, that is fair, and you are going to deliver on that. Starting a business with integrity, it might be relatively more challenging as compared to those people, who go for claiming overnight success because they have hacked the system one way or the other because of unfair practices. But for sustainability purposes and for sustainable growth of those businesses, having a reputation which is built on integrity and honesty is very important. Also, the other thing which we try to emphasize, while working with the participants of business accountability boot camps is that business integrity, it doesn't happen in the air. One needs to work to create an entire ecosystem, a supportive system which helps people remain true to their words, remain true to their customers, remain true to their business values. It doesn't matter if an individual business owner is is a person of integrity, they also need to actively, proactively choose working with people of integrity. In Pakistan, all of us, we have faced those scenarios where people from your supply chain, they would tell you that if you want to pay through check, you'll have to pay a different price, and if you can avoid taxes by paying in cash, you can have a cheaper price, for various goods and services. And these are the kind of challenges which are confronted by the businesses on a daily basis, and they help us make a choice on almost a daily basis. And it's very important to sort of understand that each act of ours, it contribute towards creation of that ecosystem. If we want to exist as a business of integrity and honesty, we'll have to support those people who stick to those values. It might be slightly expensive in the beginning, but it's for the sustainable growth of our business, for the survival of our business. Contributing our share into creating that kind of ecosystem is very important. Now there's a flip side to the commitment with business integrity values also. For example, when we worked with our young entrepreneurs, there were issues about theft of their ideas, theft of their products. So we worked with young person in Lahore who came up with a very cool sort of tool about recycling water and using that for car wash purposes, so that the clean drinking water is not wasted on that. And as he approached few of the potential investors, people really liked his idea. They did not give him positive response, but in few weeks he came to know that people actually copied his idea and they had already started implementing that. Now, knowing that how to protect your businesses in the face of such kind of unethical practices is also very important. And this is where the importance of understanding the intellectual property rights, and how to sort of ensure them, how to sort of benefit from them. That's very important. And that's another value which we try to sort of inculcate among the entrepreneurs that we work with. Now, the transparency is sort of another value which is very important when we talk about business integrity and ethics. And by transparency, we mean being true to one's customers, being true to one's stakeholders, not taking them just as customers, taking them as informed individuals or informed groups, informed stakeholders, business partners, who have every right to know more to know all the details about the products that one is offering or about the services that one is offering, and trying to be as fair with them as possible. This is part of the sort of reputation building process. Without transparency, this cannot happen. And lastly, I would like to say that when we say business integrity, it's usually sort of interchanged with the word compliance. Business ethics and integrity is definitely more than compliance. It has to be about the commitment of all the ethical values which sort of provide the foundation of a business. That's what I have to say. And over to you, Bakhtavar, to talk about our account entrepreneurship program. Thank you.
Thank you, Fayaz. Thank you, Tabinder, and all the speakers for sharing your insightful work. And thank you, Zara, for sharing the screen for me. I would be talking about our flagship program, Accountability Incubator. It started in Pakistan since 2016. We have run 4 cohorts in 4 years, worked with 30 entrepreneurs, and the way we invest in people, because we know that ideas fail, but the values and the reference points that people build stick with them. So talking about our values, Zara, if you could move to the next slide. Our values are one thing that we incorporate in all our projects and like to focus them as an organization. And so we have 5 major values: integrity, humility, collaboration, practicality, and innovation. And we break them into different components and then include them into our incubation cycle. So today we would be talking about integrity. But before talking about that, we also, while selecting our account entrepreneurs or accountability entrepreneurs, who are usually social entrepreneurs, we we actually try to select them on the basis of that they either show these values, they either aspire to have these values, or they recognize these values as important values. So our starting point starts with these values. So integrity is also our starting point, and also we build those businesses up or their initiatives to that point. Integrity, as we understand it, is that setting a personal example of honesty, transparency, and demonstrating accountability through their actions. So breaking this integrity down into three simple things like honesty, transparency, and demonstrating accountability helps to navigate this big term of integrity for our organization. And then as we move forward to our incubation cycle, we use two, Zara, if you would move to the next slide, two of the reflective tools for the entrepreneurs to assess for themselves and for their teams what are their how can they assess their performance according to that. So initially we have to understand ourselves and conceptualize these big terms like integrity and accountability for ourselves, see them in our own. So entrepreneurs usually do team assessments and self-assessment using tools like Likert scales, where they assess themselves on different aspects of integrity, like are they honest when convenient, are they honest, admit mistake and learn from them, are they do they use information, or they make it a priority to share information, do they use database information with their customers, investors, and their partners. So these are different scales according to which they score themselves to understand, okay, where do they stand and what are the best practices for these aspects of integrity. After that, if you would move to Zara, that is the integrity shield. So we talk about with our entrepreneurs the values that they talk about, that they act upon, that they feel that are completely unacceptable. And then after they realize these values, talk about their vision. So what does now their vision? Now we just reframe their initiative according to, in light of those values that they have identified them as important. So being true to those values that you have identified as important is integrity, what we understand is. And then though we use these reflective tools initially, but how do we incorporate them in our incubation cycles? So incubation cycle, we use this as integrity tools. So Zara, if you could move to the last slide. For example, we divide integrity into different components, and for that corresponding tools are allocated. For example, if we divide, the first component is purpose versus checklist. So we understand that sometimes people lose sight of their purpose while working on their initiatives. So it's really important to understand and stick to your purpose and be true to that. So for that, the tool we use is defining vision, mission, and problem, which we do it on our first quarter of the incubation cycle. Then the second component of integrity might be responsibility. How do you understand responsibility? And for that, we do them in 2 quarters. In the first quarter, the entrepreneurs set up their milestones. In the second quarter, the entrepreneurs actually build KPIs against those milestones, and they understand how can they measure those milestones, their performance, and how can they achieve them better. And so moving to the third component of integrity is that using authority responsibly. For that, we understand that data-based decision-making is most important. So in the third quarter of our incubation cycle, we encourage them to do user testing and go into markets and understand the markets and customers, and so use data to back up your decisions rather than being power or being the ability to make those decisions, but having a proper system aligned with that is important. And for lastly, the last component is holding other accountable as we understand integrity. For the last part of our incubation cycle, that where we plan for the future of the initiative, we also discuss how can they develop themselves as an integrous person, and how can they work to advocate against the opaque systems of the world. So these are the ways in which the accountability incubation program helps build integrity in their businesses. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Bakhtaar and Fayaz, for your presentation. Okay, next up, I'm going to invite Akbar to share closing remarks. Akbar Durrani is Youth Employment and Private Sector Development Specialist at UNDP Pakistan. Over to you, Akbar.
Thank you very much, Tabinda. Thank you very much to all the panelists who have shared their views, making this session very sort of productive. I would like to quickly tell you a bit about the Youth Empowerment Program of UNDP Pakistan that has organized this webinar today. So as the name suggests, the Youth Empowerment Program works with vulnerable young people across different socioeconomic strata in Pakistan through basically two distinct components. The first one relates to the engagement of youth in social and civic activities and dialogue with policy actors to promote the self-agency basically, while attempting to incorporate their views in government policies. And the second component of the program relates to economic empowerment of youth. By economic empowerment, through skills enhancement and employment in the private sector primarily. We've been working very closely with the various players in the ecosystem, in various incubation programs, the private sector. We work with government actors. We are closely aligned with the Kamyab Jawan program of the Prime Minister to primarily promote youth entrepreneurship and empowerment in small and large-scale manufacturing concerns, where we have also promoted, responsible business practices and integrity in conducting businesses. I will not go into too much detail about the programmatic activities, but just to give you a flavor of the kind of work we've been doing is that, at the one end of the spectrum, we've worked very closely with vulnerable young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, living in rural areas, and we've helped them to start their own micro businesses. We've reached out to over 8,000 young people, imparting them basic business management skills in advanced credit. So this was physical training part, but at the other. So we've also engaged a much larger group through technology using, the IVR. Phone is ringing and there's a lot of noise. Yes, so sorry. So we've engaged a much larger group, about 800,000 people through a telecom platform where we've hosted very interactive content for micro businesses or micro entrepreneurs or for young people who aspire to start their own small businesses across Pakistan. We've also worked with our technology partners in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to impart high-end technology skills such as cloud computing and big data. So over the last 4 to 5 years, we've trained over 27,000 young people across Pakistan on various skills. We've helped employ over 70,000 or 70% of this large group of people that we've trained. We've engaged over 150,000 more people through our activities on the ground with various groups in the urban centers as well as rural areas across Pakistan. But one thing that has remained central to our activity has been to promote business integrity and fair play across all our activities and with all our partners. And these range from private sector businesses with the government and various ecosystem enablers. So we have this youth empowerment program as part of the UNDP program portfolio in Pakistan, and we would invite you to have a look at our programmatic activities, which are updated and which are published online through our website and our social media accounts. So with that, I would like to kind of stop and thank all of the contributing members of this webinar, as well as the audience for being here today and sharing your valuable thoughts. And with that, I'd like to close this session and thank you very much. Over to you, Tabinder.
Thank you, Akbar. Just along with Akbar's closing remarks, I would also like to thank all the attendees for joining the session, and we'll get back to your question and answers if you have left your email addresses there. To all the panelists, thank you for your time. Special thanks to FairBiz, Youth CoLab, and NIC, along with the UK Government's Prosperity Fund and City Foundation. We'll be sharing the recording of this webinar on your email addresses and along with presentations, so all the presentations, so you don't have to worry about that. Thank you everyone for your time, and let's stay in touch. We'll just close the session.